the great debate begins in the 11-week election campaign. We're talking federal election, and tonight, Maclean's National Leaders Debate happens on City and OMNI, 5 p.m. The moderator from Maclean's Magazine political editor, Paul Wells, joining us right now. I know this is a big discussion for you. How do you even begin to prepare for something like this? First debate, it sets the tone. What is your role going to be with this dialogue?
I'll be the only person in the studio with the four leaders: Stephen Harper, Tom Mulcair, Justin Trudeau, and Elizabeth May. And all the questions come from me. And if you don't like any of the questions, you know who to blame. But we wanted to make it real simple. And the leaders have all also agreed that at any point I can intervene. If things, which I don't expect, if things start to get a little rote and a little routine and people stick to their talking points, I'll ask fresh questions to get them off their talking points. If they start to pile on and it's just all four voices all yammering at once, I'm like the referee. I pull them apart and I make sure that useful information gets out instead of just parallel press conferences like you've often seen in other debates. You know,
Paul, the line of questioning is crucial on this because this is the first major debate where we have all four major national party leaders going head-to-head. What do you think is the focus for topics to be covered? Is it about the issues, or is it about the presence of how they all interact to establish credibility and confidence in this whole 11-week election dynamic?
Well, it's a bit of both, but certainly my questions are going to be on the issues that people are most concerned about. The economy, energy and the environment, pipeline debates, foreign policy and security, so terrorism and the conflicts in Ukraine and in Iraq and Syria, and the state of Canadian democracy, the way we elect our leaders, the Senate, the courts, things like that. So the questions are going to be real meaty, but yeah, there's also a bit of body language and the way they respond to one another that will affect how voters appreciate their participation and make their choices about how to vote.
You know, many eyes will be on this debate. Let's talk about the Prime Minister, Stephen Harper, first. He was the one that had this early election call. Some people saying it was unfair with the funds the Conservative Party could raise. How do you think he will handle himself in this arena? Clearly, he's the most experienced given his political background. But what do you think his strategy will be to control this dialogue and come out on top?
You know, Stephen Harper is appearing at every campaign stop with a podium that has the word leadership written on the front of the podium. He's not subtle. He's trying to tell everyone that he's the only serious leader here and that these others are pretenders and wannabes. And I think that's the kind of contrast that he's going to try and draw.
And I can only guess, I mean, one of his fiercest competitors, Thomas Mulcair, a leader of the federal NDP party, I see Thomas as one of the stronger challengers to just go directly after the PM. Do you see that as the strategy for the NDP party, to just focus on the Prime Minister and avoid going after the other two?
He's an extraordinarily strong debater. He comes from the National Assembly in Quebec, which is a great training ground for talkers, and Tom Mulcair is a talker. He has to make people believe that he could be a credible prime minister. He would be the first NDP prime minister in the history of the country. So that's a tough hill to climb.
And for the Liberal Party and Justin Trudeau, you know, we've seen the impact of these attack ads. I think the big question is Justin Trudeau ready to take on a role like this? How do you think Justin can establish credibility in the short time he has in this debate tonight?
Well, because people were saying the Liberals had no ideas for government, he has spent most of the spring and the early part of the summer coming up with ideas and announcing his plans on the environment, on elections, on relations with the United States, and so on. And a lot of that gets washed away in daily news coverage outside of an election campaign. Tonight is Mr. Trudeau's chance to demonstrate that he has thought about what he would do in government and essentially to reestablish himself. I mean, for 2 years he was floating across the top of the polls and everything seemed easy, and suddenly in the last few months everything seems difficult, and he sort of needs to reassert himself as a participant in this campaign.
Well, it's an important opportunity for him to do just that, and a valuable voice with Elizabeth May being featured in this debate tonight, making history in 2011, the first member of the Green Party to be elected to the House of Commons. What do you think her voice will bring to this debate to contrast and ultimately debate the other three?
Well, I know there's a lot of interest in the Green Party in British Columbia, and Elizabeth May is also a great talker and always comes to these debates with a lot to say. That's why we're happy to have the Green Party participating in our debate, even though they've only got 2 seats in the House of Commons. And of course, for Elizabeth May, it's kind of all free, because the odds of her having to be the Prime Minister and having to implement it are a little lower than for some of the other candidates. And so she usually doesn't feel very inhibited in the ideas that she brings to a debate. Nice one. Well, 5 p.m. tonight, City and OMNI, we will be there watching alongside. Do you have a little bell to help moderate the discussion if people go long on time? I got a baseball bat if they go long on time. We're not going to be subtle either. He means business. Political editor for Maclean's magazine. Good luck tonight. We'll be watching. Thanks, Paul. Thank you. All right, quick note too, the post-debate analysis is going to happen also on OMNI. Our own Jody Vance is going to be over at UBC to get a lot of the reaction of what comes out of the 2-hour debate.